Hello and welcome to the Delirium engine, where we don't shit our pants, beat up 8-year-olds, or call Asians adventure mushroom people.
They look like adventure mushrooms.
Today I'm here with 3 fine gentlemen. I use fine very loosely.
That's fair.
I'm with our good friend, the Spartan.
Hello.
As always, Mr. Dagwood.
Hello.
And the incorrigible Dr. Predox.
I'm a doctor, and those were definitely mushroom people.
You're not a biological doctor, then.
I am, of course, Mekhalikhar, also known as Bryant. And today we are discussing, once again, the second last episode in the series, I Character.
Oh no.
Where we take an in-depth look at 7 parts of a character and how to maximize the success of those parts. Sometimes successfully, sometimes 2.5 hours of discussions on gender.
That was only one time.
That's sometimes.
You're all drunk.
And a continuing conversation, to be fair.
We may have to come back to that episode. So there may be 8 parts in this 7-part series.
Oh no.
Now, but today, as we discussed last week, our topic is one that is a little bit, I'm not going to say interesting.
It's not very good. Too much alcohol.
Oh, yeah, we're also drinking.
Yeah.
Just before we get to the topic, let me just make sure that we all go around the table and figure out what we're drinking. Okay, so we'll start with the worst.
Okay.
That is Dr. Predox. What are you drinking today?
I'm vaping.
You're vaping.
I'm vaping.
That's right.
I have to work in the morning.
Okay.
I gotta work in the morning too, and I'm
So
drinking.
let's go with the second worst. All right,
Oh,
that
well, you
would
are a
be
smaller person. That's
Mr.
fair.
Dagwood. What are you drinking right now?
Oh, I'm drinking a Caesar.
A Mott's Clamato Caesar in a can.
Yeah,
I'm going to put out. Yeah, it's classy.
Not even-
AF.
Not even a glass with the little salt ring
The
on it.
Spartan.
Not-
What do you happen to be drinking right now?
I am drinking the Pop Shop Black Cherry Hard Soda.
Oh, that sounds very good. And I, friends, am drinking the
Oh, God.
Rabbi.
Yep, here we go.
The Rabbi Shekelwitz of wines. The Manschwitz kosher wine that I purchased for $7 a bottle. This was by far the cheapest wine I've ever seen, and it's supposed to be kind of like juice. We'll try it out in a second. But anyway, going back on topic of not what we're drinking and instead what we're actually going to be talking about. Today's episode is about, drumroll please, alignment. Now in 3D.
Oh,
And
how do you get a third dimension into alignment?
I don't know, Morals, I'm really
Okay.
confused.
That is
With-
the axis.
I guess so.
we add a third axis. So just so I can get everybody on the same page. Yeah, I know. Oh my god. To get everybody on the same page, alignment is sort of, in a lot of tabletop games, it's kind of the centering of your character. It's most prominent in Dungeons and Dragons, but it does exist in other games, not officially, but I think unofficially. You know, evil people are evil, good people are good, and there are chaotic people and lawful people as well.
Yeah.
And I think we're covering it specifically on this in this episode, even though it's kind of D&D centric, because it's pretty universal. Even if it's not written on your character sheet, it's kind of there. And you're always kind of thinking about it in some way, even if it's not directly.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And the reason why it's in 3D is because I'm going to use the cast alignment rubric.
Oh.
And that has 3 axes. It has the good-evil axis, the chaos and order axis, and it has the apathy and zealousness axis, which is the amount of energy used in performing whatever goals or such that you have.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So,
There was a fly.
unlike other episodes, I think, thinking about the I Character series, I've sort of come to a realization that much of what we do is we try to discuss the answer to a question, but sometimes we don't quite have the question. And with alignment, the answer is kind of obvious. What's the best alignment for your character? The one you chose.
Yeah.
Right? But that would mean that the question can't be what's the best alignment. It has to be you've picked an alignment, what now? Right? So I think the discussion might have to be something more along the lines of how do you think is the best way to play each alignment? What is each alignment? What are we talking about here? You know, what is evil? What is good? What is chaos? What is order? What is apathy? And what is zeal?
Okay.
And then what is neutrality in all of these things? Because all of these things mean something. And what does it mean to take, you know, only like neutral in everything except one thing? Does that mean that one thing is more valuable, less valuable? What? So I have to step away from the table for a few minutes, but I'm going to pass it on to each of you to go over what you think your favorite alignment is to play and what your least favorite alignment is, and then you guys can have some back and forth discussion. And I will leave it to the Spartan to attack this, because I have to walk away. So I'll be right back.
As he
Spartan,
usually
take it
does.
away.
All right. Well, the alignment I would have to say, and some people might dislike this, but for a general D&D game, I usually go with chaotic neutral. Dr. Predox head just hit the desk.
Oh.
I understand.
We'll get there.
No, I
We'll
get
get
it.
there.
I get it. But in my opinion, it allows the most of... You can do the most of what you want by being a chaotic neutral character.
That's the idea, right?
Yes. It's the everyman's alignment, and I don't usually go outside of it. I do once in a while, and it gets pretty interesting, but for me, it's usually a chaotic neutral alignment. How about you, Mr. Dagwood?
For me, I gotta say my favorite to pick is chaotic good. I find that the chaotic aspect really works for adventurers. You know, you're making up your own morals as you go. You're doing what you think is right for whatever reasons you have. But at the end of the day, it's a little bit more heroic. You get to bring into these adventures or challenges an extra layer of moral quandary. It's not just like, okay, you're chaotic neutral. Do you capture the evil villain?
Okay.
Do you stab him in the neck?
Sure.
There you go. But what if he has to be brought back alive?
Well,
You
then
go,
bring
is there
him
money
back
in
alive.
it? Yeah.
Well, no. If he has to be brought back alive, then sure, I'll bring him back alive if I can.
Okay. But what if he gets brought back alive
Okay.
he's going to go to trial. He's
Okay.
going to face justice.
Okay.
Or somebody has paid you money to kill him.
Well, is this a new contract?
Yes, this is...
Okay. Well, if somebody's paying, it depends on what the character I'm playing, though.
I'm
Okay,
saying
wait,
it's
wait,
not
wait.
very heroic.
So,
No, it's not. Like,
It's adventurer.
have you ever seen Firefly?
I've seen like the first half of an episode.
Okay.
And I've seen Serenity.
That's enough. That's totally enough.
Okay.
Because like Mal, the captain,
Yeah.
is traditionally a chaotic good character. Now, Mal is a good person who cares for people and he would be good if the government wasn't against him. So his
Okay.
methods of going about his goodness are questionable. Because
Yes.
Mal
very.
steals, he does all the bad things.
He smuggles.
He's a pirate,
kills
right?
people,
Essentially,
yes.
yeah. So I find like I totally like agree. Like chaotic good does give you more. It gives you more options than like a lawful good would. Whereas lawful good, like the good is very toe the line. Whereas chaotic good, you could be like, this guy stole this to save his family, but you're gonna bring him to justice. But justice means he dies and his family doesn't get anything, and then there's no money and they die. So the lawful good thing would be like, sorry, bud, you broke the law, I'm taking you in.
Yeah.
Whereas the chaotic good thing would be, you got away, punch me in the face, I need a black eye to make this look convincing. Because essentially both acts are good, but one is less so for the greater good and more for a small good, whereas lawful good is the laws and everything are more towards the greater good at all times.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But you could theoretically do the same thing with chaotic neutral as well.
This is where I like to go. Okay, so my favorite alignment
'cause-
to play is either chaotic good or lawful evil. I like it because on both sides you were given multiple ways to go about your thing. Because lawful evil, you have to do evil, but you also have to get along with everybody else in your party.
Okay.
So, and most of the times when I play these campaigns, I don't tell anybody I picked my alignment. So I just kind of like peek at other people's, or I kind of go off of what they're doing, and then I have to essentially hide the fact that I'm evil, but still have I still have to toe some sort of line.
Yeah.
And it's really good. My least favorite is chaotic neutral.
Why?
And I'm not talking from a player sense, because from a
Okay.
player sense, yes, you have the most amount of options given to you at any given point.
Yeah.
But you are playing the most boring character in the entire
But you're not.
the entirety
though.
of anything.
You're not.
Wait. Because
There's a lack
at the end of the
moral
day,
conflict.
there is a lack of moral conflict, and the fact that you have a freedom to make any choice doesn't leave you conflicted about anything. And most of the players, like when I'm doing campaigns and people pick chaotic neutral, I'll give them 2 campaigns to act out chaotic neutral. And if they do not act out chaotic neutral, I force that fucker's alignment. Because I'm tired of people being like, I can do whatever I want. And it's like, no, your world building is very important. Like your laws of the land, like the way you go about your things, like that's why like alignment is important in itself. But if you're picking the alignment that can do anything and that does not care about alignment whatsoever, then there are no moral quandaries, there are no challenges to your character or like the way you go about things. Like for me, it's the lazy man's way of going about anything. Because the easiest decisions are always laid in the hands of neutral characters. Any neutral character. Whereas like a lawful good, for example, I was in a campaign where I was a paladin and there was a Medusa or like a Gorgon fucking up this entire village.
Okay.
I was in a tough place because I had to go back to do like this raid. Like our dungeon master built Naxxramas and put it into 3.5 campaign.
Oh, man.
And it was amazing. But we had to get back because we had supplies that people needed, people were sick and dying. But because I was lawful good, I had to do something about it. Whereas the chaotic neutral would have been like, okay, bye, see you later. Like we might not come back, everybody could be stoned. But I was forced.
Well, not necessarily.
So from a leadership perspective, instead of taking 3 people with me, killing 3 people, not having any supplies, like the worst thing goes,
Yeah.
my party's fucked. So I had to split up my party and go by myself. And oh my god, that was horrifying. But like the fact that I had an alignment and I was put in a situation where I obviously did not want to go because I'd never even fought one and I was gonna go fight one by myself.
Yeah.
But like chaotic neutral characters never have these challenges because they're so flip flop and they don't.
I'd say if they're not doing it right, they don't have these challenges. I'd say if they're not doing it right. Because a chaotic neutral character can still have moral conundrums or whatever. Whatever that word, the big word you're saying.
For example, they might respect people's freedom and hold that as a value.
Yes. So, say a slaver may have an issue with that.
Okay, so
and for me, like a lot of me personally, if I were to give myself at like the Spartan has an alignment, I'd say I'm more of a chaotic good kind of person. That being said, playing a neutral character gives me problems.
I would have totally said neutral evil.
Oh,
see,
thanks.
and that's
Yeah,
my next question.
'Cause-
Is what's the difference between a chaotic neutral character and a neutral evil character? Because if neutral evil is selfish, I will do everything in my self-interest, no matter the goods, neutrals, or evils of the world.
Actually,
Whereas like a chaotic neutral, I find would do the exact same. I will act my will upon anything that I so choose. Because I'm not held to anything. So what's the difference between the two?
The way I look at it is that, one, I think alignment is kind of a fuzzy thing as it is. But if you're going to pick, like, you know, what's the good and evil, I use a rule of thumb for it that good characters like to help people, neutral care about themselves,
Yeah.
and evil enjoy hurting others. But the way I usually run things is that, morally speaking, I mean, you're talking about D&D, you're talking about a universe where there are actual demons and devils and angels and coatls. And do you really think between these gods and, daemon princes that humans or mortals even are a speck on the radar as far as good and evil goes? I mean, what do you do? I eat babies. What do you do? I'm Asmodeus, the Lord of Hell. Big difference on what you would consider evil, right?
Okay.
So whether or not mortals are even really that good or that evil, that it infuses their essence, I really don't ever treat it like it does. It's just a trend, right? But if you're gonna do that, yeah, lawful people. It's about rules, orders, the group.
But then we're thinking in a way where alignment is too malleable and the lines are not clearly drawn.
I usually disregard it altogether.
Because, well, for
it is,
for a
though.
meta mechanic, like the way that alignment is actually built into these games is very much supposed to influence not only your choices, but the way that the world interacts with you as a consequence of those choices. So to say, I'm chaotic neutral, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna make whatever choices I want, means the world is treating you very much the same.
I guess.
But like, and to say like, oh well, they're very fluid, or to say I like helping people, I like helping myself, I like hurting people, but then you have like, my question is, okay, what's the difference between a chaotic good person and a lawful evil person then? Because it is my law to do good, but I will do the most horrible things to possibly do it. Like Thanos all of a sudden isn't lawful evil or chaotic good, he's both.
Well, and that's one thing to look at, is that every villain thinks that they're the hero. I mean, you talk to, Papa Doc Duvalier there, and I bet you he doesn't see himself as some avatar of evil.
No, but the world interacts with him as if he is, which defines his alignment, right? So you are very much not only defined by your actions, but how the world perceives you in your game as well. So Thanos is a villain because we perceive him as a villain. He might perceive himself as good, but the lines are there. So there has to be a line between this, who can, like, I can do good things, I can justify bad actions by doing good things up to this point.
Yes, but a good character, if they found out that they had, okay, yes, you stopped the volcano, you saved the village, and then it turns out that because you've done that, you awaken some horrible monster and millions of people suffer. Whatever. You've made things worse for everybody. A good character would feel bad about that. An evil character would laugh at the extra bonus. So, as far as like doing bad
a
things
neutral
and doing
character
good things,
would probably feel bad about that too.
well, it's like theft. If I steal a pair of Oakley sunglasses, that's not a good thing to do.
No.
But you steal bread to feed, some hungry child. It's a little bit different, Aladdin, right?
Yeah.
The idea being that actions themselves are guided by your motivations, and that's what the alignment is really supposed to be, is your moral motivations or ethics.
I like that.
But
So how
your
can
actions
you be...
aren't necessarily determined by that, because that's about circumstances and choices as well. But how you react to these things and what your intentions are, that's maybe where alignment is.
So my question again to the chaotic neutral person:
Okay.
how do you field your morality at any given time? Like, how do you stay chaotic versus being, like, how do you stay chaotic neutral versus kind of inhabiting chaotic good and then being like, oh, I don't want to do this? Because, like, for me, for the way, like, we haven't played a lot of D&D together, so I have limited
we've literally played no D&D
yeah,
together.
so, like, I have a very, very limited knowledge about how you would play a chaotic neutral character. But for the games that I've ran and the people I've been involved with chaotic neutral, everybody wants to play chaotic good but wants to opt out of good decisions. Like, oh, I could possibly get killed doing this decision. It is not in my best interest. Therefore, instead of being a good person, I'm going to opt out of this one.
Hey, it doesn't mean you're always good.
But I mean, I feel it's still a cop-out. Like, there's no moral quandary if you can cop out of anything.
Let me tell you a bit of a story. It's a thing that happened to my character that was a little while ago. I'm playing an alchemist, okay? Well, a witch, technically, but I specialize in alchemy. Like, I'm rolling 40s when I do alchemy checks. I roll 40s.
Okay, you're an alchemist.
I'm I'm a very good
Yeah.
alchemist. And me and my group stumble fuck our way into a dragon's lair. There's me, the cleric, and our ranger, right? And the rest of the group is being chased by the dragon. Literally, like, they're running around through these ancient ruins, like, trying to stay alive. We're trying to get out, okay? And we come across the dragon's nest. And in this nest, there are 2 dragon's eggs. I am now given the moral conundrum of, do I take these dragon eggs and leave, or do I leave them there? Right? Now, a good person would leave them there. An evil person would probably just smash the things and be over with, because, you know, the dragon's being a dick. I'm going to be a dick back. Right? So, I decided, like, in my head, what I wanted to do was to leave the dragon's eggs, because I didn't want this thing coming after me, right? I didn't want to give it a reason to come after me after we leave. But what my character would have done was probably take it, because you could get a lot of money, and as such, a lot of alchemical stuff from this thing, right? So when I come into these issues, I tend to roll a die, and I'll do odds are the thing I wouldn't normally do, and evens are the thing that I would do as a good person, right? I rolled odds, so I took the egg. Well, this had an impact later. We're climbing up out of these ruins, because they're underground, and the cleric stops me and says, you got to put the egg back. Like, you can't take this dragon's egg. You're stealing a child. Like, he is the holier than thou person, right? He's playing, as some of my party members like to joke, the moral compass of the party.
So he's good.
He's very good. He's
Annoying.
yeah. Good to the point of forcing his morals on other people.
Lawful.
Very lawful good.
Okay.
Zealous, one might say.
Yes, one might even say zealous. And he threatened my character with physical harm. He threatened to do, I think it's burning hands or something, to my character, which wasn't well thought out because I'm a tiefling and have fire resistance. But,
okay, well,
you know, besides the point. So we had a bit of a standoff on the stairs leading out of this place. Well, the dragon, my other party members have escaped the dragon. The dragon's now searching for them. And we're, like, here. We're on the steps out. So at any point, this dragon could look at us and be like, oh, there they are. Chomp, right? So we had a standoff. It got to the point where, like, we shouldn't be doing this here, whatever, and he turns and leaves. I decide, okay, this is going to cause issues, right? This with the party. Because he's going to be real upset that I've stolen this dragon egg. I really want this dragon egg, but I'm kind of really pissed off that he threatened his party member with physical harm to save what is, to my character, an oversized lizard. So I told him that after I left, I told him that I had returned the dragon's egg. I didn't tell him how I returned the dragon's egg. What I had done was I put the dragon's egg on the edge of this staircase, which is a sheer drop of like 300 feet, and shoved it over the edge. And I returned the dragon's egg to him.
Oh my goodness.
I later learned from the GM that the dragon did not see this, and the egg hit the ground with like 30 d6 worth of damage and went splat. Quite splat. But again, I had to roll a die to do it, because what I would have done was just leave it there. But my character's now annoyed. I know that my character would think differently. And that's how I treat when things come up, like a good character would do this, an evil character would do this. I'm in the middle, so I can do either one, kind of thing, right? But what should I do in this situation?
So just to jump in here, and I'm back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Mekhalikhar returned a little while ago, and he's been sitting here quietly and patiently
Listening to this story. So just so I understand, this character that you had to roll a die for, this character was evil or good or neutral?
chaotic neutral.
Chaotic neutral. Okay, so that's why you were rolling a die.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I see. Because the character could have done whatever.
Exactly. But
Okay.
I personally, I tend to lead towards good acts. Like
So we went over what everybody's favorite alignment was, I'm
yeah,
guessing.
You
So
you missed out on that.
Okay, yeah. Mine's lawful evil. Just to,
Fair enough.
Just to
That's
point out.
understandable.
Together. You'll be alright.
Yeah.
I like lawful evil. It's my
Yeah,
favorite
me
alignment.
too.
But I am not adverse to playing lawful good, like straight to the hilt.
Okay.
That is.
It is quite a lot of fun.
Hey, one of my favorite characters I ever played was a lawful good.
Mm-hmm.
He was a paladin who never killed anyone.
Yeah.
Just used a shield in his bare hand and knocked people out. And all in all, it was a good time.
Justice.
Hey,
Yeah.
no, like bandits
Yeah, no,
kidnapped
that's
him. He chased them
awesome.
down, beat them up, tied them to a tree, and was like,
So, I'm just so I can catch up, figure out where we are,
Yeah.
because we were now swapping D&D stories, which is awesome radio.
I know,
Awesome
right?
radio.
It's just radio. It's just awesome.
But have we discussed at all what the various alignment parts are, or we just sort of assumed?
A little bit.
Yeah. Just because I'm a shill, I'll read a little bit of what, just maybe sort of give us a direction and stay on the alignment topic.
Yeah.
I'm going to read out sort of each of the parts of the three axes in the alignment section of cast, and see what you guys have to say about it. And so the first alignment axis is, of course, apathy and zeal, because it's just the way you sort of say it.
Okay.
And so I've got apathetic first. Characters do little and require great motivation to act. Apathetic characters are the sort to suggest to others what needs to be done, or even suggest that somebody suggests something rather than do it themselves. So everybody kind of knows a person like that, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to pick an apathetic character to play, what kind of a character do you think you would be? I guess would be the best point, but the best sort of starting point, and we'll just go around the table. Like, what do you think an apathetic character? What kind of characters are best apathetic characters?
That's
well,
It kind of goes counter to being an adventurer, but it doesn't in its own way.
no, what
right?
Yeah.
I would think about it, and I mean, of course.
What do
that
you got to be apathetic?
Well, that could include people who don't care, but those don't make very good adventurers. I would say somebody who perhaps thinks about the very big picture of things, where, yes, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we definitely have to do this if it's super important, but otherwise they don't really care. You know, it's about the little details of life. Yeah, they see someone steal, they're like, well, at least they're not summoning demons, right? I think that would work better as an adventurer, as somebody who's perhaps takes longer to rouse to an active state, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a morality. It just might be a complex and subtle one.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Dr. Predox, what do you think?
Yeah.
You Spartan first. Still thinking
Spartan.
about this.
Spartan, what do you think? What do you need to be an apathetic character? Or what should you be if you want to be a successful apathetic character?
That's a tough one, because again, like as you said, it doesn't really fit well with the adventurer kind of subtype, right?
Okay.
So I'd have to agree with Mr. Dagwood
Okay.
in how you'd have to go about it.
Someone who has to be
Slow
to rouse, but will rouse eventually.
Yeah, focuses on the bigger picture rather than
We're going
the
to
little
save our
things.
strength for the big adventures.
Yes.
To quote Adventure Time. You want me to go or you go? Perfect. Mr. Dagwood finally finishes his sketch. which will now be done at some point. Anyway, you were saying before I interrupted you so rudely.
I think, yeah, it's kind of the exact same thing, Mr. Dagwood.
Okay, well let me throw some things into your rattle boxes here.
Okay.
Because you guys all basically gave the same answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how about characters that cheer other characters on, like bards, but don't actually do particularly anything themselves? Wizards who aid people, but don't actually do any of the fighting. Maybe characters whose motivations are one of a muse. I'm somebody who wants to give good ideas, but don't make me actually do it. The guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone else would be a very good apathetic character. It's like, if I were doing it, I would have done it better. And like the guy who does it is like, I just did it, or like, yeah, I failed. Thanks for telling me now. That kind of thing. The intelligence character who's not physical would be probably a good trope for an apathetic character. Like the kind of guy who would rather think something through, and then just tell everybody how superior he is. Pretty much anybody that you look left or look right. Go on Twitter and find every single armchair intellectual. Those are all apathetic tier characters.
Armchair generals are definitely apathetic.
But good ones would be like good adventurers would probably be someone who is more interested in supporting the people who are active, like who are zealous, and not being zealous themselves.
What about somebody who is actually not concerned with morality itself? Perhaps they either support balance or otherwise are just accepting of a variety of moralities. They don't see it as something to force their own on the world.
Yeah, so that would be another thing where it's like, yeah, someone who's apathetic is someone who just doesn't care. Like they might be prone to action when it suits them, but ultimately it's not. Most times it won't suit them because
their
they
goals
won't take like political action, and they won't take like alignment based actions. Like, that's evil. Apathetic would probably enhance neutral a lot. That anybody who takes neutral apathetic or something like that, like apathetic neutral would be somebody who's just like he just won't act in either his own interest or in the interest of like society as a whole.
What if their interests are just not ethical?
Yeah.
Like not I don't mean like
and always
immoral,
the easiest path.
I mean like amoral. Like what if I was a druid and my goal was that I wanted to awaken every tree in this forest?
Yeah, an apathetic character would find a way to do it that doesn't involve much effort.
Yeah.
Or they would, if they had to do it, like if they have to be roused to action because that was like their primary motivation, they would try to find a way to get other people to do it for them. Or they would get a party of adventurers and try to convince them that it's part of the greater good and that they are very important and really require you require me to help you, and then really not help that much.
Yeah.
Like help only as much as effort requires. Play themselves up, maybe even depending on how evil they are. Like how much they actually put into it. The sort of Scotty thing. It'll no man could do this in less than an hour, and then you do it in 10 minutes. It's because I'm a miracle worker and that's how good I am. That kind of thing. Anyway, let's move on from apathetic. Neutral characters will take action to achieve things that they find important, but little else. So yeah, neutral on the sort of on the energy axis is sort of this like would probably be very close to what you guys were getting to in the they don't do much except for stuff that they personally sort of find really important. Things they really need, like I need to eat. I need, I really want my mom to be happy, so I'm going to go do this thing.
Like maybe if they happen to be chaotic, perhaps they hate slavery and they'll try to free slaves, but they're not going to go look them out.
Yeah, apathetic people usually won't be successful. Is I think what's going on here too, right? Like the closer you get to zealous is the closer you get to people who actually go out and solve their own problems.
Yeah, it's like
whereas apathetic people will usually live a miserable life. And you're playing an apathetic character is a character you're going to play as a failure. Like you've basically decided that you're not going to play a character that gets his own goals done.
Yeah.
And if they are done, it's in spite of him, not because of them.
I can see that.
And then we'll go to Zealous. Zealous characters will take the initiative and always attempt to move to leadership positions. They are driven towards their goals and often have the energy to take on the goals of others. So their zealous people are the people who pick up the shit for the apathetic people, and then they also do their own jobs. You know, these are these alpha boys, you know, that run around getting shit
too
done.
hard.
Yeah,
Yep.
burning the
Too
wick at
much.
both ends, like at the you know. So I guess we'll talk about the zealous because neutral's not as interesting, but we'll talk about zealous. So what kind of character has to be in place? And this should be really easy because most D&D characters should kind of be a zealous character. Like they
Okay.
don't have to be, but the if you're not playing with the energy axis, you know, usually the de facto thing is kind of my character usually wants to go out and solve the problem. At least that's my theory. So, but what do you need to be? Like what should be in place for you to be an energetic a zealous character? What kind of character is? How do you best play a zealous character? I guess would be the way to go.
I would say it is someone who takes advantage of their opportunities for adventure, and that's what makes it a good player. Because it's not just, you know, I believe in good, or I believe in chaos, or I believe in evil. It's taking opportunities to exercise this that create more opportunities for adventure. And by being zealous, it would mean that you also jump on those when you have the chance.
Okay, what would be the dangers of being too zealous? I guess.
Burning the wick at both ends, running your character ragged.
Yeah.
Being led by the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would make sense. Dr. Predox, what do you think? What might be things to look out for when being zealous? Because it's always easy to say, yeah, being zealous means, you know, go out and do things, you know, be it's like it's seen as very positive, right? But it can be negative.
Well, you
So-
could have poor leadership skills, and being overzealous means that you are literally the spearhead of every single bad decision in your entire party. Being overzealous is also, like the Spartan said when he was describing his story, you force the alignments or actions and question other people's morality
Yeah, like
and
intolerance.
stuff. Yeah, like you're
Yeah.
you're very intolerant, and sometimes that can even that can wreck up a party, or like
That can
even-
bleed over into real
yeah.
life too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
You
people,
guys
Yeah,
are
that,
like-
that can destroy a whole game.
yeah, like people, like overzealous, like being zealous. Yeah, you get stuff done. You can lead your group and stuff like that. But I find those traits only come with trust from your party members.
Yeah.
But if you are overzealous, terrible at making decisions, you have bad goals that nobody else really wants to see them through, and being overzealous is a detriment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we covered zealousness. So let's go on to the more traditional ones, where we have the law axis, right? So it starts with lawful. I have the conformity axis is what I called this one. So this one, lawful, we'll start with. Lawful characters take great pains to follow the rules of society and will often take exception to people who don't. In places where structures may not exist, the character will often erect their own. So these are obviously very organized and ordered people.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is just like anything else. You have chosen to play a lawful character. What kind of a character should you be? What should you be thinking about when you're playing this lawful character? What sort of character sort of best fits into this shoe?
I'd say somebody who's rather more of a straightforward kind of character. Yeah.
Thinks inside the box.
Very inside the box. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about Mr. Dagwood? What do you think?
I think that when you're talking about someone who's lawful, the idea that they're structured and ordered is good, but you also want the fundamental essence of adventure is making waves. Someone who's completely lawful could easily end up not doing anything disruptive, and because nothing changes, they leave no mark. So if you're going to be lawful, I think you have to be a builder. You have to be doing something constructive towards a changing goal.
I like that. That's a good way to put it. Because yeah, if you basically don't step on anybody's feet, then and you're not
boring.
building anything, then what are you doing? Like you may as well be the apathetic guy.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Or maybe that is the apathetic lawful character. Like, the apathetic lawful neutral is the guy who doesn't step on anyone's feet.
He works at the DMV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He follows the rules to the letter.
Excuse me, you can't bring that soda into the theater.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're gonna do it anyway.
I don't think I would bring soda into that theater.
Yeah.
That would be real bad. Someone might call the authorities on you.
Oh no.
Someone might be me.
I would be so embarrassed.
I would be so embarrassed.
embarrassed.
Yeah, that's
This guy's eating beans. Love that.
But yeah, the idea of going out and building things, being someone who has to create new structures. It's like they find chaos and temper it with order.
Yeah.
That might be a good way to put it, and that might be how you produce a successful like lawful character. Is the go and find demons to slay, even if those demons are just a lack of city in this place.
Makes sense. Dr. Predox.
Anything to add?
Not from a player standpoint, from like a someone running the game. Yeah, you can pick lawful, you can build your stuff up and stuff like that, but like you gotta tell your players what the law of the land is. It's like, hey, maybe we don't like lizard people and we commit genocide on them, and that's the law. Like, you can uphold bad laws, but like I find a lot of people miss, like a lot of DMs miss the opportunity to put in these conflictual laws to challenge their players. It's just a really good way of doing it, because like one minute you're overzealous leading a charge against these people that you think did wrong, and the next you're just actually walking into a village completely unannounced, slaughtering everybody, and you're like, why isn't anybody defending themselves, right? Like you don't know. And I find there's a missed opportunity if you don't tell your, like, if you don't inherently make rules that should be broken to challenge your players.
No conflict,
yeah,
Yeah.
like there's no conflict if you're like, everybody just assumes these are the rules, go.
Okay, so that brings up an interesting idea. It's like, what kind of law should you be following? Like a personal morality,
That'd
or
be
like
chaotic,
would it?
Well, like,
individual.
what about the code of
But
knights?
wouldn't the chaotic character not have a personal morality? Wouldn't he not give a shit?
I think it's the opposite. They would have a personal morality, and it would be more so that it's theirs rather than anyone else's. Might be why they don't fit into society as
But
well.
wouldn't the chaotic person just change his morality based on whatever was the most convenient?
That's what happens when people learn and grow as people.
Yeah, but that's...
No, because you can learn and grow, and then, like, you can be a good person, learn and grow, and see a lot of evil, and not be like, maybe I'll try it out.
Yeah, but
right? Like,
if you're talking
like
chaotic-
good people don't do that.
No, but chaotic
That's
would
true.
be like a chaotic good person would be the kind of person who thinks, you know what, too many rules is a bad thing. In fact, the less the better. People should have to take personal responsibility.
But I would point out that the conflict in that is the way to go about doing good, whereas the conflict with neutral characters is the way about, I'm gonna go and do my own thing. So like you can have like, okay, I will never eat babies as your chaotic neutral rule, right?
Yeah.
You can be as chaotic neutral as you can, but as soon as you eat a baby, you're lawful.
You know,
Because you follow the rule.
I actually like to go by the 9/10 rule. I'm not saying 9/10 of a baby is okay. I'm saying where do you draw the line? No. But the idea is that
I just ate most of my baby. not
people
all
think
of
of
it.
a character
Rule
being like
breaker.
lawful or chaotic or good or evil or zealous, and the truth is that people are complex, and sometimes the right thing or even what must be done is in contravention to your own personal morals. And I think it's okay for a player 1 out of 10 times have that lawful character go, well, not this law. And it doesn't break that. It doesn't mean that they're not lawful. They're still mostly lawful. They're 9/10 lawful. It's just
Sure.
But there are some punctuations or variety to it that actually gives them a deeper moral story. I think it helps develop them as a character.
I think challenging and changing your players' morality is okay. Because, like, any story where people are very stagnant isn't a very good story.
But as
like,
a
you
player-
you can change. Like, even as a player, like, you should be consistently taking a part in the world where you are educated enough now to make decisions about your alignment. And, yeah, you can change, but those changes need to come with conflict. And I find chaotic neutral characters, or neutral characters in general, do not have a lot of conflict. Because there is nothing predetermined or established in characters, especially lawful ones, where you get this conflict where the law of the land says this, but this dude's a good dude and I should let him go. Where like you can do like
so like
what you're
chaotic
saying.
and neutral. Do you think they need more backstory?
I think chaotic neutral people need something to ground them in the decisions that they're making, but there also needs to be, like, I don't know how, but there needs to be a distinction between chaotic neutral and neutral evil. Because, yeah, you can go about doing, like, getting you in questionable, like, with questionable means, but just because you gave to charity a couple times and did a couple good quests, you get to stay chaotic, like neutral versus neutral evil? Like, I don't understand the distinction between the two.
I've always viewed it that
both are purely self.
I've always viewed it that a neutral character, like on the good-evil axis, simply doesn't care whether something is good or evil. It's about whether or not it's practical, or it's about whether or not it benefits them. Maybe it's just business. But I think in that sense that they're less concerned with whether or not it's good or evil. They don't try to balance it out. I mean, unless they're kind of some kind of weird monk who's like, oh, I stepped in a grasshopper, got to go to church.
You might have something to say about what we write in the cast, like what I've got is cast on the morality axis. But let's finish with chaotic, neutral and chaotic. So we went through lawful, and so yeah, I think we can kind of agree with the rudiments of that paragraph. So the neutral axis was neutral characters will obey the laws and follow them when it works, and I put works in quotes. For them, but have no qualms about ignoring them when it is inconvenient. So this is those people that they like to talk about how the laws are important, but they'll break the laws whenever the heck, when those laws are stupid.
You mean like how we don't file our income tax, including our our yard sale income?
Yeah. Or you smoke a lot of dope, even though dope's illegal, but you still think it's really important that the government exists and enforce the laws, except those marijuana laws, which shouldn't be enforced at all.
Really, it's the public nudity laws that get me.
The public nudity laws?
Yeah, you're allowed to have a bunch of topless people, but nobody goes topless. I don't understand, except for the dudes. Strange.
Weird.
But yeah, that's the same idea. So yeah, neutral, like the way that the conformity axis kind of works is neutral doesn't. It's not as much they don't give a shit. It's if it's convenient for them, or they just don't think it's a smart law. They just won't work with it. They will work outside the law, or they'll just choose not to apply the law to their own personal life if they have a moral conflict with it, and that would be sort of neutral. And I don't know, the neutral parts I find are really, like, what kind of an adventurer is best played, playing a neutral character. It's just like anybody who just doesn't listen to the things they don't like. So it's, I don't see much of a very good discussion with neutral characters. So chaotic. Chaotic is a good one. Chaotic characters don't subscribe to social laws. Do what they think is the right thing in the most convenient way, and don't expect others to listen or follow any sort of structure either. So basically when they say, you're listening to me now because I'm in charge, they don't expect people to do that. They don't expect you to listen to them. Maybe you'll listen to them right now because you're going to kill them if they don't, but you're so chaotic, like a chaotic
or they
character.
Had a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't expect you to. Their core of their being is chaotic. They don't trust people because they know that people are just like them, right? On a dime, they might change their mind and not give a shit about you and stab you in the nuts, right? Yep. Or they'll be your best friend for the rest of your life. You don't know. And you might trust them, but you can't, you don't expect them to conform to some sort of weird structure that you have erected because you're the bandit king or whatever, right? You expect all your underlings to be trying to kill you. So, does anybody have anything that they have a qualm with that? Or what do you think would make the best sort of chaotic person? What has to be in place for you to be a successful chaotic character? Let's start, I guess we'll start with the Spartan, because...
Well, a successful chaotic character... Oh, it's hard to say. Really.
Does anybody have anything they want to add, say, whatever?
Yeah, quit giving me that freaking look, alright? if done right... I don't know. Since you have so many opinions on this, Dr. Predox, how about you freaking start this off? So
I think
think.
The essence of playing a chaotic neutral character or anything that is chaotic is to make decisions that people do not see coming at all times. I think being chaotic is very much keeping people on their toes and always pushing the norms of the party or like society forward in any crazy way that you possibly can. Like, to play, like, because it's not very different from being neutral to chaotic neutral if you just go about your business the way that would be most beneficial and easiest to you. So when people pick the extremities of chaos, you should be doing things that emphasize not only your will, but the most amount of chaos that you can cause for everybody else and yourself at any given time.
Nietzsche.
Like, your decisions don't even have to be intelligible to other people, but they should be your own motivations and your own way of going about it. Like, you should always be picking option 2. If you can go through the gate or sneak around at night, your third option should be blowing a hole in the south and going through that way in the middle of the day.
That sounds very detrimental.
But there's no difference between a neutral character and a chaotic neutral character then.
Well, no, there is. Because
I don't properly understand it because I haven't had good chaotic players in my games.
Well, the cast book talks about it, and I agree with it because these I wrote it.
Yeah, it's your thoughts on paper.
And so, the way it said it basically was neutral works with what works. So you might not on the street point to 2 guys and go, that guy's neutral, that guy's chaotic. But if you live with them for long enough, you'll know. You'll know exactly the kind of person they are. The neutral guy is the guy who's just like, fuck it, we'll pirate it. The chaotic guy is the guy who takes a knife and stabs your couch because he felt like he wanted to stab your couch. You know, and you're just like, but that's my couch. He's like, is it?
Whoops.
I guess.
Yeah. And
not even whoops. Just doesn't even like give a shit. He's like, oh, I guess you got to fix it then. You know, were you gonna pay me back for it? No. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Make me.
So do you play neutral characters that are more chaotic good than you do chaotic neutral?
They're
May I?
Because like.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Because that's the thing is, I've never really looked at. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with chaotic character being random or even destructive in nature. But if we're talking about what makes a good character, I think being chaotic doesn't necessarily have to mean that they're unpredictable. It could just mean that they've got their own motivations, that they value individuality and freedom. That they don't like control, that they think maybe control is actually positively bad. It's not mere, because that's the thing, neutral people will use chaos, and they'll use breaking the rules. But a chaotic person, that's a way of life for them. And so if you're going to play a character, I think what's most important for being chaotic is that you have internal consistency. Like a lawful character, it can be easy because you look at those laws around you as your source code, right? This is where you make your decisions from. But if you're chaotic, you need an internal consistency. Otherwise, yeah, as you say, what's the difference between neutral, good, evil, if it's just all about, well, what I want right now? Or nobody can see this sucker punch coming. Especially you, 8-year-old.
Yeah, just clock them.
But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be that way. I mean, you talk about someone who, let's say, Robin Hood style. They break into slave camps to rescue people. They're outlaws because slavery is legal in this kingdom. This is truly a chaotic person.
I would argue that Robin Hood is actually not chaotic.
Well,
because he has a band of merry men, and
real
he
life.
leads them, and this, that, and the other thing. Like the way I understood it, the way I would define it, he's not chaotic. He's more neutral. He just the laws that don't suit him because he doesn't like the sheriff and doesn't think the sheriff's laws are appropriate.
But you could say whether or not saving slaves is a good thing or not, but what if he's not doing it because it's moral? What if he's doing it because he wants to disrupt and overthrow the kingdom? Totally different. So those motivations are really important for taking chaotic and defining how it fits with your character. It doesn't matter what your morality is then, it's just important that you have one, I think. Because otherwise, if you're playing chaotic stupid, we've all DM'd, right? Played.
Yeah.
You ever play someone who's chaotic stupid? It ruins the game. It sucks. Before you know it, they're doing something inappropriate to a Varghoul and their head pops off.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you're playing a chaotic person, you need to have some sort of consistency. You have to set up...
Even if inconsistency is your consistency.
Yes.
As long as it's internal, I would say it's just not based around society or those around you.
Yeah.
Like my issue would be neutral versus chaotic neutral. And for neutral,
Well,
it's being like
There is
internally
no straight
consistent,
neutral, though.
but chaotic would be just
A straight neutral character is a vegetable on the
difference
couch.
is between the alignments when you get that close to like those shades. It's like the difference between red and orange, right? Like neutral and chaotic neutral is there's still shades of red,
yeah.
right? Unfortunately, like obviously you could see a huge difference between say lawful good and chaotic evil, but
Yeah.
like neutral and chaotic neutral are not. The differences isn't that big, but if I had to give two examples, like neutral good would be like Robin Hood, and chaotic good would be Zatoichi. Like if anybody's ever seen that,
No.
because Zatoichi is a blind swordsman, masseuse, gangster, former gangster who just roves around Japan,
Sounds like an
fucking
awesome character.
ripping people off because he's a gambler. He rips off mafiosos and guys who cheat people because he's blind, so they take advantage of his blindness. So he uses the fact that they're going to take advantage of him to take advantage of them and steal all their money. And when they try to gang up on him and beat him, he kills them all. And then walks away laughing.
That's awesome!
I'm Zatoichi. But and when he finds someone that deserves, like a good person that's in trouble, he'll save them. And right? But he doesn't follow laws, because if laws try to bring themselves to him, he just says no, and he just draws the sword and everyone dies. And he puts the sword back and the 20 guys that attacked him are all dead. And then he goes about his business doing the thing that he thinks is right. And sometimes that is following the law. But that's not because he's being lawful that day. That's just because he thinks following the law that day is a good idea.
It's coincidental.
Yeah. By coincidence, following the law was a good idea. Because today he thinks the laws are just. Like, and Robin Hood sort of, the way I remember him was, yeah, he sort of follows the rules. He forms a group. He formed like a rebellion. And in that rebellion, he attacked the rich in order to like help the poor because the taxation was too high. And yeah, he was going against the laws, but he wasn't going against his personal morals, and he wasn't like against structure, right? Because the first thing he did was build his own personal base and structure and
different
dudes.
structure.
Yeah, and frankly, he wanted the lawful good King Richard to come back rather than Prince John.
He just cared more about good than he did care about law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like neutral good, which makes sense to me at least. But anyway, yeah, a true neutral character just wouldn't care. Like, he wouldn't be stealing from the rich to give to the poor to bring back good King John. Like a neutral Robin Hood would just be stealing from the rich to give to the poor for his own personal PR. And whether or not Prince John or King King Richard comes back or not is irrelevant. It's just he was doing it. Him and his band of merry men are just doing it because they want to do it. And then the chaotic guy, Robin Hood wouldn't have had a band of merry men. Chaotic Robin Hood, chaotic good Robin
Hood. He might
Hood.
have a few clingers on, but they wouldn't be cohesive.
Yeah, chaotic good Robin Hood wouldn't have a band of merry men. He'd have followers that just sort of follow him around, and he might do his thing, and he'll come in, he'll steal some shit, and he'll just drop it on whoever he thinks needs it that day, and without rhyme or reason. And and yeah, he's probably working towards the betterment of King Richard's thing.
What is with the faces, man?
Thinking.
But
you look like you're constipated.
So that would be the chaotic, or sort of neutral. I lost my train of thought. But so stealing from Prince, basically breaking all the laws, not giving a shit about his band of merry men would be the chaotic good.
Yeah.
version of Robin Hood. The chaotic neutral would be, once again, doesn't give a shit about Richard, doesn't give a shit as much about the people as his own personal PR or his own richesse. So the chaotic neutral Robin Hood wouldn't have a band of merry men. He would be an asshole who runs around stealing from the rich, sometimes giving to the poor to make himself look good, sometimes keeping most of it to himself.
The real Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah. Some guy who steals shit. And, you know, if someone tries to stop him from stealing shit, that guy probably gets an arrow to the face. And that would be him. And do you want to adventure with that guy? Sure. Probably. You'd probably be one of those guys that hangs on, depending on how apathetic he is. Robin Hood was very zealous.
Yes.
That was a guy who saw a problem or saw a solution, a future solution, and made it happen. I don't know. I think going through those analogies, does Dr. Predox, does that sort of solve some of that? You know, do you see some of the differences here with the analogy?
I do see some of the differences.
Like sometimes people pick an alignment and they don't play it right.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
that's kind of, I guess, where I'm at now.
And that's
Like,
hopefully what this episode will help alleviate. You know, as bad as we're doing,
I actually have a trick
I
for
think
that.
we're at least going through it. Pardon?
Oh, I actually have a trick for that.
What's that?
I don't have people pick their alignment. Let them pick it, you know, during the game at some point. You know, maybe a couple sessions in, because sometimes you even have an idea for a character, and then the truth is, situations happen, and you start playing them differently than what you thought. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that because I use alignment as a sort of anchor to sort of, because you know I Bryant am a different alignment than any character I usually play, or maybe not. But generally speaking, I don't know my own personal alignment, but I do know the alignment of the character I've chosen to play. And so if I come across a moral situation or something, you know, I have to look at that piece of paper sometimes and anchor myself back into where I would be. You know, in the same way that the Spartan sort of was rolling dice to be chaotic, right? Like to you know, I would look at it and be like, okay, I am chaotic. What do I give a shit about? You know, do I really care that the kid lost his lollipop? No, I don't. Do I have a hankering for lollipops right now? Yes, I do. So I'm gonna go get the kid's lollipop, but I'm not gonna give it back. You know, so that's what I've chosen.
That's fair.
And that's why I like picking my own alignment. And even if you picked it for me, I would pick my own alignment. And whether or not you agreed with that choice or not, that's what I would use to anchor. Shall we move on to the morality curve or the morality axis?
This is delicious. The next one.
Okay, yeah. So, good. You are a person of sympathy and empathy. Good characters desire the betterment of others and will act towards that, and even if it comes at personal self-expense. Or comes at the expense of the self. So that's good. The idea of goodness was it's altruism. You know, it's I will help others before I will help myself.
Yeah.
You know, that others first, me last. If I'm dying on a ledge, I will give the rope to save my life to somebody else before I even try. You know, that's good. And I don't see if there, like, does anybody have any...
No. That
Good is altruism.
Okay, so
good is altruism.
as we were going through all the alignments, what has to be in place to make a successful, good character?
Laws.
You can't just
rules.
be good when it's convenient.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you think you need laws to be good?
I think there needs to be systems in place where a binary is created, so your players know exactly what good and evil is, and even if you do give them times of moral quandary,
If you go by this
the lines
definition,
are
though,
still...
if you go by that definition, the binary is selfishness versus selflessness.
Yeah.
So if somebody else needs something, you help that somebody. So you don't need a law for that. The law is help someone out. Help a brother out. Take one for the team.
I think...
Laws and rules would temper that, though.
I agree that good and evil exists outside of laws,
Yeah.
but laws help your characters understand the current morality that they're playing in and help them make moral decisions.
That's very
So-
lawful of you.
Law.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lawful way of looking at things. That's not about goodness or evil, and you have to define what goodness is. And I know in Cast we've defined goodness as selflessness.
Well, that's what the laws would do for like a nation, though. Like they would define what good is.
Well,
For
what
that
they say
area.
is what the law says is good,
Yeah.
but sometimes the law says killing a
Well,
different type of person is good,
I do.
and
agree.
that doesn't make you
Let's-
good by decapitating other people.
Let's-
Decapitated guys like help a brother out. I don't want to
No.
be decapitated, and you're like, sorry,
But
I'm
you
just too
still
good.
I would agree
understand,
that-
right? Like you still understand that chopping off heads is bad because all your players have a basic understanding of morality. So like you can have laws that are
Well,
like,
that's a morality
can-
that supersedes the
you can
laws,
have a
then.
good
that's-
kingdom, but like it can do some bad things. But as long as your characters don't agree with those bad things, like I don't know.
Well, then you're not
like-
lawful good.
let's not say like laws for a kingdom then. Let's go with social rules. Because what is socially accepted as good would be good.
Well, you can be uncouth and still be good.
Mhm.
You know, you could be a ball-scratching, mansplaining, man-spreading piece of crap.
But defining
Who
the
burps
lines
and farts
doesn't
everywhere.
literally doesn't
Call
make
everyone
you worse.
hey asshole.
Well, that
Pardon?
doesn't
But
make you evil.
defining
though.
the
It
lines
doesn't.
doesn't make you worse.
But you could violate.
Like what I'm
social
trying to get at
contracts, social
is
rules, and still be good.
defining a line between good and evil.
Yeah, I guess
And in
you
my
could.
sense, that would be a law that defines that. Doesn't make your players worse or even better, but it allows them to more intelligibly make moral decisions.
Yeah, but the morals are defined by something that you define as good before the game has even begun.
Yeah, but not having any not having
Stop
any laws.
blowing vape juice
I'm
at
trying-
people.
Yeah, I get carried away talking and just blow it forward. Like, you can have laws to guide people, even though that kingdom could
But
possibly.
nobody cares
be-
about the laws.
Like,
The laws are about being lawful. That's the conformity axis. No matter what laws you put into play, whether or not you're good doesn't matter. You can tell, you can feel if someone's going to be good, because that's how much they're willing to help others rather than themselves. You know, at least that's my
okay,
definition.
say
If
a
you've defined
serial
it
killer
differently-
that has no morality whatsoever walks up to your table and
Yeah.
tries to play a good character.
Okay.
For me, like, the problems that possesses is this person has no guide.
You know, John Wayne
Internally-
Gacy used to volunteer to entertain sick children at the hospital.
Yeah, but like that guy coming to your table obviously doesn't have the same idea of what morality is as we do. So
No.
for
Well, I
me,
would say
or
that
somebody who doesn't,
Some of us don't even agree with each other's morality of what is good, even at this table.
so for me, like, especially with new players, there has
Only
to,
one of
like,
us is
you can
serial
say that
killer.
there is good, but I find like having laws to enforce some type of good still helps your characters be like, oh, that's how I do good, instead of being like, I'm gonna murder this thief and hopefully I'm doing good. Like, I feel like, yeah, players, yeah,
but a
they're
chaotic good person might do just that.
yeah, and that's where you get like your chaos and your apathy and things like that. But like for your just goodness, I don't know. Like, I feel like there should be some kind of
good
would
structure.
help-
easier in a lawful environment.
It would help direct
Yeah,
good.
maybe the point I'm trying to say is yeah, it would help direct. Like, maybe it doesn't have to exist completely, but like laws help direct your players to be like, okay, this is good and this is bad, and then being like, oh wait, maybe I thought this was good, maybe this is bad.
All right, sure. Yeah, like laws that are good and just, and knowing that these are good and just laws. You know, killing everybody who has, you know, a weird mutation is not a good and just law.
No.
So maybe having only laws that are not good and just would not help facilitate a successful good character. So sure,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. Anything else to add to good, or shall we move on to neutral? Because this is the one that I want to read out specifically because you mentioned it.
All right.
I'm good.
Okay, so neutral on the morality axis. You are a person of general goodwill. Neutral characters will help others if it doesn't inconvenience themselves too greatly. but likewise will exploit a situation when the gains are sufficient. So this would be the guy who, he's walking down the street and the guy's like, spare some change, and he just happens to have some change in his pocket. He's like, yeah, sure, here you go. You know, is he a good guy? Well, I guess so. You know, likewise, the old hobo guy is like, I'm dying, and he's like holding a lottery ticket with that's the $100 million winner. The guy punches the hobo in the stomach, grabs the freaking lottery ticket, puts it in his pocket, and says, have some change, bud.
That's sadly like most people.
Well, most people are probably neutral on the morality axis. You know, and so the idea is, yeah, it's goodness when convenient and evil when it's sufficient, when it's sufficiently beneficial.
Yeah.
See,
You know,
I would actually disagree
Wouldn't
with
steal
that.
candy from a baby, but he might steal $10 million from a baby if he knows he's going to get away with it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I define the neutral on the morality axis. And it's, what do you think, Mr. Dagwood?
The way I've usually seen neutral is that's actually what I put as selfishness.
Yeah.
People aren't really concerned about helping or hurting others. At the end of the day, they care about themselves. And, you know, sometimes appearing good or getting away with evil does benefit them. But ultimately, they're less concerned with whether or not things are good or bad than rather to say that they're concerned whether they appear good or bad, or whether or not it's sufficiently, as you said, you know, there's perks. There's perks to being good. There's perks to being bad. But that's still selfishness. That's personal gain, right? And so that's how I usually look at neutrality, is selfishness. Not necessarily that these people might want to do good. They might not even care about it at all. They might care somewhat about it, but not enough that they're going to take personal risks. The other thing being that if somebody is neutral on good or evil, I would also point out that this could mean that they are they view that both of these things are essential or otherwise unavoidably part of life. This could be a realist as much as it could be someone upholding the balance, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of leeway that you can fit within neutrality, but I guess that's what I'm saying, is they're not all necessarily the same. But I would generally argue that neutrality is putting oneself first for whatever reason.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything to say about neutrality
Not until
in
we
the
get
axis?
definition of evil.
Okay, this is my definition of evil, as per the cast book. You are a person of contempt and self-service. Evil characters act on their base desires and have no qualms with hurting or exploiting others for their personal gain. And that's all I've written. And that's pretty much where I am. You know, you want something, they have something, and you can take something with little or no difficulty. You do that. You would like to put your thingy thing in their holy hole. You make that happen.
You make a hole happen?
Sure. If that's what you want. Because you act on your desires, not on any sort of other useless motivation, like, you know, law or whatever like that. So, self-service. Like this is like what you described as like neutral on the morality axis, I would describe as evil. The only difference is the amount that you would act evil. Because neutral people will act evil, like I said, when it serves them the most. Like when the gains are high enough, right?
That could just
But the
be a
evil
different
person will
risk
steal the
threshold.
candy from the baby.
Yeah.
He won't. He'll steal the $100 million too, but sometimes he just wants candy.
Yeah.
And then the baby's got candy. It's real easy to get, you know. Whereas the neutral guy wouldn't. He's just like, I'm not gonna steal candy from a baby. It's not worth it. Like, no. Yeah, I want candy. I'll go to the store, get some candy.
That's kind of where I would
Pay the
fit
money.
on it, because I look at
This is disgusting.
as evil. If you're talking about like the big scheme of, we actually brought this up when you were out there.
Mm-hmm.
On the big scheme of good and evil, mortals don't really make a splash. I mean, you've got Asmodeus, you've got Beelzebub, you've got, you know, gods and angels and all that in these fantasy settings. The kind of person who'd plot to do horrendous things to innocent people for 1,000 years is on a totally different scale of evil than what most human beings would ever approach. And maybe it's a matter of opportunity, but
They're just so good it loops around.
maybe. But when I look at evil, you're looking at, it's not just self-service. I'd actually look at it a little bit in the opposite. Because if somebody's truly malicious, they, just like a good person would take risks or harm to themselves in order to do good and help others, I would think that an evil person would take risks or even accept some harm to themselves in order to cause more suffering.
Yeah, okay, that would make sense too. But like, I would say that's true because their base desires like to see other people suffer. You know, they're suffering on their own. Like if they're having a hard time of it, they want other people to have a hard time so that they can see other people suffer that hard time. You know, that's
reverse empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, and good characters are empathetic and sympathetic. So an evil character would have reverse empathy, you know. I don't like feeling bad, so I want you to feel bad. So I'm going to make your life miserable. That happy family over there, I'm going to make their life horrible by shitting on their lawn. You know? And, you know, right up until I'll break into their house, eat a sandwich in their kitchen, and stab their wife to death and let the husband come home. And when he sees that, I'll be like, hey, you're on candid camera, and take a picture of it. And send him that picture every day. For the rest of his life.
I think that maliciousness definitely has to be a part of it to differentiate it from neutrality. Because someone who's, let's say, lawful neutral, they might be, you know, playing the system in order to benefit themselves. But an evil person would prefer, in their ideal world, to benefit themselves while also watching someone else go down.
Sure, yeah, I could see that. The way I defined it on the axis here was simply the amount of, like, what tilts you from neutral to evil is how much you get back. And so the evil person can get as little as making someone feel bad back, and that's they'll perform a cruel action as a result of that, some anti-sympathetic action, and the neutral person just won't. Like, why would they do that? Like, why am I gonna kick that frickin' pregnant woman in the belly just to watch her get sad?
Well, evil would say for the lulz.
Yeah, and evil would say because it's funny, bro. You know, you got punked. Put it on, have baby. Put it on YouTube and get some sweet views. Like and subscribe.
Ashton Kutcher is lawful evil.
Yeah, evil jackass. You know, there you go. Find pregnant Mormons and punch them in the belly for the lulz.
I do not recommend this.
No,
don't do
this.
that. Kids, don't try this at home. But yeah, so. Alright, so we've covered all of the distinct pieces of alignment in some form.
Jeez.
So, I guess the question that kind of... And all of these sort of mix and match to create a weird alchemy. Like, you can go... Especially with the 3-axis system, you can go all sorts of different character archetypes with these things. And you can create endless ones. Like, one man's, you know, apathetic, lawful, neutral... And another man's apathetic, lawful, neutral might look completely different. And that's just because there's more stuff than just alignment in building a character.
Yeah.
So...
A lot of which we've gone over.
Yeah, well, almost all of it. There's a point I wanted to get to in this, and I probably should have written it down, because I'm having trouble forming the sentence. But... alignment... I guess the last sort of thing I want to cover before we close out this episode is kind of what exactly is alignment, if that makes sense. Did we discuss that when I was away at all? Like, did anybody even mention it? Like, what exactly is this? Is this supposed to be your... Like, I was saying that it's your character's sort of guiding light about how he would interact with the world.
Yeah.
But is that what alignment is.
I'd
Right?
say
Like,
so.
is that the best way to define what an alignment is? What anybody got any thoughts?
I'd say that's pretty good.
Okay.
Your alignment is as you said, basically how you would interact and perceive the world around you. Oh,
Yeah, that was the other thing. Okay, yeah. So you agree with that? Now, Dungeons and Dragons does something really goofy. It has the outer planes.
yeah.
So, I'd like to touch on what is the difference between a person whom is evil and an evil entity. Okay, so there's two different things. Like there are in the outer planes, there are alignment, sort of like outsiders, like demons, devils, angels, things like that. And these are entities of evil or of good or of law, right?
Modrons.
What is
Okay.
what is the difference between an entity of evil and an evil entity? Do you guys think there is a difference? Should there be? Should you guys? Have you ever thought about this?
No, not particularly.
Okay, so I'm going to go on a soliloquy, is what you're saying.
Well, I personally haven't really thought
What about
about
Mr.
it 'cause I haven't
Dagwood?
had to.
Entity of evil versus an evil entity.
Generally speaking, I figure it's a matter of choice. For one, that mortals, above all else, get the choice of their morality. Their behavior is what reflects upon them. And when they die, they go to these different planes depending on how they behave. They become one with it. Whereas, if some demons, all demons are chaotic evil. There is no variance, right? At least not according to the books. If you want to throw something in there, usually it's some sort of exceptional circumstances. But ultimately, there is no variance. There is no choice in the matter. It is as natural to them and as right to them as breathing or the need for food. So when you talk about a Modron, they need that structure. To them, it's impossible to conceive of doing it any other way. A demon, the same thing. They see what they're doing as a positive thing. Everything ultimately becomes natural about it. It's not merely a matter of choice or philosophy, but actually a nature of being.
In theory, humans are true neutral.
Yeah.
All
We're
things
animals.
on the primal material plane are true neutral, and we sort of tend, with our choices
And how
our-
much influence
and our
is there?
alignment, we tend to fall into these moral categories. And in Dungeons and Dragons, there are entities that fall into the category that by nature that way, and they might shift maybe 1 point on the alignment scale. Like they might shift
I'm
to
sure
neutral.
there's some
like
neutral evil demons.
yeah, some demon might be true neutral, but that's as far as she goes. Like, how do you even get a lawful demon? It doesn't make sense.
They're
That's
just angels at that point.
I was born from a
they
cube.
wouldn't exist. They simply wouldn't, and that's the idea. Unless there was something insane that happened. In the same way that a human can turn into a demon might be able to turn essentially into a not demon, which would allow him to get there. But an interesting point that I made back, I've always played with is paladins used to have detect evil, right? Or they think they still do now. I would not allow paladins to detect evil alignment, ever. They don't get to see it. Are you an evil person? You don't know.
I do the
All
same
it
thing.
detects is evil entities. So undead, which are negative, and negative, because as we follow that.
Well,
like-
and evil spells or things
yeah,
like
things
that.
that are evil by
Leave their mark.
nature.
Yeah,
Like
they leave their mark.
Yeah, they leave an evil mark, and so that's the only thing. Like that would be the difference. Is like a tangible evil versus an intangible evil, and the intangible evil is sort of someone's choices, and the tangible evil is literally the devil. That's hi, I'm the devil. It's like I detect evil. Yep, that is an evil thing. Like
Yep, that's definitely.
that's
the devil.
definitely evil.
Like if he tried to give you a hug, it would probably be strangling.
Yeah, it would be a snuggle struggle, I'll tell you that. Okay, so I think we've covered alignment. We sort of covered the last two bits that I wanted to cover as choppy as they did.
Yeah.
I guess we'll go to closing comments. So we'll start with the Spartan, because he's across the table from me.
As usual.
It's tradition.
I guess so.
It's a position of privilege, and you should honor it.
I guess I'm gonna have to start thinking faster. It's alignment is not really an easy thing to go over, because there's so many different types and styles, and like you said, an apathetic, lawful, neutral character to one person could be completely different to another person. That being said, if you... Oh, it's hard to say. Just stick to... Unless you decide, or something happens to you that should be... that would shift your alignment, try and stick to your alignment. Because a lawful good character suddenly going around being chaotic evil is kind of game breaking and can cause some major disruptions to the whole party dynamic.
No.
So when you pick your thing, stick to it. Don't, unless something happens, like change alignment or what is it? Mind control? That could do it too. Yeah.
People playing lawful good to the hilt, if they get mind control to do an evil act, they go and get penance. They try to get themselves excused, even if it wasn't their fault. It was their body that did it.
Yeah.
So like a to the hilt lawful good character might seek some sort of salvation from that horrible sin.
Penance.
Confession.
Apologize for their weakness.
Yep.
I'm not one that puts a whole lot of stock traditionally in putting the alignment on the sheet. I think it matters. It's a helpful tool, but ultimately it is just a tool and not the most critical thing to a character. I think what is important, however, is that you've got a moral motivation that drives you forward to do things. That helps bring about adventure, fun, excitement, and challenges. But ultimately, you do have to sit down and spend some time thinking about your character's ethics and why they would do what they do. Because ultimately, when you take a human being, or a humanoid in those settings, and you strip away all forms of alignment, you are left with a biological computer. Everything that makes somebody individual generally falls into the category of trivia or morals. And it's how you are recognized. I mean, if your paladin, whose lawful good was replaced with some doppelganger who did say one time, yeah, sure, go ahead, steal it. That kind of thing would give other players a tip and so on, but it's based on that you're recognized. Not just in the world and the setting, but also how your other players will treat you. So I think it's very important to have some sort of ethical consideration about why you would or wouldn't do certain things, what kind of conditions, and just think about it. Because as long as you have an idea to go in, it'll develop as you go.
Dr. Predox.
I think alignment is probably one of the most important aspects of any person's character. It's really easy to roleplay and just make decisions that you would make. But like, it's not roleplaying if you're just making the same decisions over and over again that you would make, and you're just playing as yourself. To reiterate the other points too, it's very important to have alignment, because that's how you react with the world on morals and values, and how the world reacts to you based upon your own. And it helps a lot with your world building. It helps you build your relationships. It helps you even how you would go about other people with different alignments that you know of. And I agree. Like, I don't think you should be writing your alignments on paper. Even to the point now after this, I don't even like alignment is really important, but maybe it's something that should just be picked by your actions during game, and not something that you put on a piece of paper and follow. because then you have a freedom of choice and you have the freedom to actually build up a character or even decide if you want to be chaotic neutral, whereas maybe the binaries are just too strong to pick at the start.
It's true, yeah. Developing character and having changing alignment can be a major arc to an entire campaign.
Yeah.
All right. So I would say that alignment is unlike the last two who say it shouldn't be on the sheet. I think it absolutely should. I like the 3-axis system that I put together because it allows you to sort of determine the level of energy you put into your character, in addition to whether or not they're a selfish person or, you know, a structured person. I find that this taken all together, it sort of gives you can look at these 3 words that you've chosen and sort of get a map of what you want to do or what your character wants to do, if you can sort of get in its head in the character's headspace. If you mix the alignment with all of the other parts of your character, the name, the gender, the backstory, the weapon of choice, the primary motivation, and then in the coming episode, feeling and flaws, you end up with a full-bodied character. And when you've taken all of these into consideration, your alignment will help you determine how to make the choices you're making at the time. Or at least it will give you a pretty good idea of what you want to do.
It'll help you align them.
What you as a player should do, yeah, it'll help you align yourself to your correct choices. What you as a player should probably be doing is simply studying alignment. Like, don't take our brief cast outline that I did in one paragraph as like the gospel for alignment. But, you know, look into what you think evil is. Look into what you think goodness is. Look into what order might be and what chaos might be. And sometimes like, if I were to put another axis, like a 4th axis,
Time.
It would be it would essentially, I'm developing it in my head and just as we speak, but another one would be something like inwardness versus outwardness. So like
Introvert versus extrovert kind of thing.
Well, there's someone who's like, I'm going to be the best person I can be versus I'm going to try to make the world a good place.
It would be a meta sort of alignment. So it's like my alignment refers to my own personal self versus my alignment refers to my sense of the exterior. So it would be something like, you know, if you were, we'll call it introverted versus extroverted for now. And like, so if you're an introverted, lawful good character, you have your own set of lawful morals that you do not sway from. And you're good in that you will help everybody that you can, but you use your own laws and you do your own good, right? These are the goods that you've chosen. And if you were extroverted, it'd be a lawful good would be the laws of the land, like those laws. So it would be as in the same way that Dr. Predox was talking about, like we set up a series of laws that we feel were good in this society. And so as an extroverted character, I would follow the goodness of my society, not the goodness of what goodness is. Okay. So I'd be chopping up all the people who have the weird mutation, you know, because that's goodness.
Yeah.
And as much as we find it repulsive, personally. So a lawful good character in an evil society would be an extroverted lawful good character, right? Even though he's lawful good. So like that would, if I were to make a 4th axis. And that's a thing that's what requires the study. Like honestly, the alignment axes, you can have 100 axes probably, but it starts getting cumbersome after a while. Like even a 4th axis, I have to push to get people to even think about. But you know, a 5th axis is like a meta axis. Like you could probably do a 6th axis all about, you know, personal cleanliness. Like you could do all of things. Like all of the sliders in a character creation screen would probably work as an axis, right? As various axes. But, you know, 4 or 5 is probably the most you need. And yeah, study them. And you'll find a way to make a character, like you'll fit your character that you've produced and you'll fit it to that alignment. And then from there, you'll take that alignment and use it to better your character. Like it sort of reciprocates, right? You made a character, you don't go, I make a character, he's going to be chaotic evil, unless you do. But most times you do, I make a character, he's got all these things, and then my alignment is last. Like, what would my alignment be? Oh, I'm going to be chaotic evil. It's like, okay. And now that I've chosen chaotic evil, I got to stick with it. And so that means that this character is now going to do things that I wouldn't normally think that this character would do. And that's how you would probably play it the most successfully. It is, and maybe that's just me rambling away. Is like, yeah, build your character, then choose an alignment, then stick with the alignment.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my closing statement ramble that uncovers that nugget of truth. And the nugget of truth might be, yeah, your character comes first, your alignment comes second, and then your actions based on your alignment, which basically produce your real character, come third.
I would actually like to add one thing
Go
that
right
I think
ahead.
bears a little repeating because we covered it earlier, is that you guys were talking about like sticking to the bit and things like that.
Yeah.
And in the end, yes, when you do have morals and ethics and alignment for your character, it's not just when it's convenient. If your character is neutral, it's not just when it's convenient. If they're good, it's not just when it's convenient. Because even a character who just does whatever is appropriate at any given time isn't necessarily chaotic neutral. Like, a chaotic neutral person might actually refuse to do something lawful on principle. In the end, sticking to your alignment means that sometimes you're going to stick to it even when it's not necessarily in your... I mean, because you're around the table, you're a player, your character's best interest. You know, oh, if I do this, the DM's totally going to wreck me.
Yeah.
Like, don't meta it, go with it.
Okay, I think that covers it. I think we got it. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the little chit chat. This one went quite a ways. We didn't go to the dungeon because if we would, we'd be here for another hour. But I don't think he said a lot about it. Let me take a quick brief look. Let us enter the donjon anyway, even though I just said let's not.
Sometimes the dungeon is empty.
Yeah. Sometimes.
I think he did post
Sometimes
something,
you
so
turn back at the door.
I don't want to be totally a poop about
That's only
this.
the Tomb of Horrors.
Because the Dawn does
well.
post some interesting stuff, but I don't think he posted anything. That's why I didn't really go into it.
I'm actually hoping to run the Tomb of Horrors soon.
Oh, there we go. He did write something. So I'll quickly go through some of these rooms. How much are you willing? 3 axes, good, evil, apathy, zeal. Compulsive thoughts, apathy, zeal. Okay, he doesn't know about apathy or zeal. He's never heard of it before, and that makes sense because he doesn't play cast. And he doesn't play with me either because he lives in another town. Lawful, some say it's always falling. Okay, what is lawful? Robin Hood's usually considered chaotic good, but he participates in anarchy and criminal activity. But there's a codified set of behavior. An argument can be made for lawful depending on the definition. Oh, so he sort of agrees with me. How do you define chaotic? Oh, so he's like, basically, we have to define it, which we did. Next. Okay, Axis I've never used, don't really have much to say about it. That definition term is useful. Okay, so he talks about definitions. Suppose all depends on the character's motivation and personality been assigned. If I'm money-hungry businessman type character, that always sticks to the letter. Okay, next. I'm afraid after some wealth I don't care. It's certainly... Next. Don't believe that a good character can commit an evil act or vice versa, especially if their lawful access provides an opening. Same with holding to a code would not be influenced well by the good or evil act. I think every character has a smattering of neutral, even if most evil will do something good, even the most lawful will do something against the code. So yeah, this isn't like... he basically goes on and says that it's not set in stone. You should probably follow it. You should follow it to the best of your ability, but you don't have to. It's like this isn't something that's like 100%. And Robin Hood is not. He's not always chaotic good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you to the Dawn for posting in the donjon. I'm sorry we didn't go into the donjon too vigorously today, but we had an hour and a half discussion, and I think it was quite good. We got to all the points. We asked the right question, unlike what I think we did in the gender episode. Next episode, which may come as soon as a couple of days from now or as late as Monday, is going to be the final episode of iCharacter, which will be Feeling and Flaws. The feels are my bond.
Oh, the feels.
The feels. And what we mean, obviously,
that's the
is...
most important thing.
The feeling of a character?
The feels.
Or just the feels in general?
No, not in real life. Fuck feelings.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so anyway, seeing as how we just had a bunch of dead air from the feels comment, I will say, everybody, you like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the show. You all take care, have a good night, and don't die.